It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5. It's a Friends Friday, and man, I've got a special treat in here today on the phone. It's Cody Cozz. Actually, it's Cody Cozzolino, if you're from Pueblo, correct?
Yes, that's me.
Hey, you're making quite the waves in everything that's going on, but and people that listen to country music know all about you here from Pueblo. But I kind of want to know, your start. I know you played some football at CSU-P and things like that, but where did you go to school and things like that here in Pueblo?
Yeah, so I'll give you the full rundown. I started elementary school at Belmont Elementary.
Okay.
And then I transferred over my fifth grade year to Hoff Elementary. And then I went to Heaton Middle School, and then I went to Pueblo West High School, and then I went and played football at CSU Pueblo.
Now, did you play football in Pueblo West?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, because you're a pretty big kid, seems like, right?
Try to be, yeah.
Yeah. And in CSU-P, what kind of record did you guys have and everything that in those years there?
We were pretty good. I know they've kind of been on the fighting end of things these last couple of years since I've been gone. But we were always had a winning record. I think we won the RMAC for 3 years in a row. We had the 1 year with that we tied with Mines. I think that was my sophomore year. So I mean, we were pretty good for the most part. We went pretty deep in the playoffs my last year, and then lost to Mankato, which always seems to be our nemesis. So,
well, the good news right now is they've won the last 5 straight, so they're doing well. Yeah. What position did you play?
I was a safety.
Safety.
So I got to play. Yep. So I got to learn from Coach Leo. God bless him and his family and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So playing safety, you must have been pretty fast.
Yeah. Again, I tried to be.
That's kind of the idea, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was thinking back about this when I knew we were going to talk, and I was thinking back, and I think I remember meeting you at Jai Doan's one time when you were playing over there. Yeah. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about some of the stuff you've got coming up and what you've got going on if you get a chance to stick around. And,
absolutely.
All right. It is Cody Cozz in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. My special guest today, and it's Cody Cozz. And most of the people I've had on here have been people I've been friends with for 30, 40 years. Now, you're not even 30 or 40 years old, so this is quite the treat, though. But I guess what I want to know is, how did you kind of get started? We were talking about you playing football and things like that. Did you start playing like musical instruments and stuff very young, or how did this all come about?
So I've been doing music my whole life. My dad was a singer back in like the 80s and 90s and stuff, kind of like most guys were, I guess, back then, just because everybody wanted to be a rock star.
I knew my limitations, so I never did try that. But yeah,
somehow you still ended up on radio.
Yeah, somehow, yeah. So you started at a very young age then.
Yeah. I think I was just influenced, definitely more by like the classic rock music, like Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, kind of stuff like that early on, and then I was just really steered in that direction. And I think that, some of their voices were just very influential on me. And I really tried to almost mimic them when I was singing on the radio. And I think that really helped shape kind of the tone that I wanted. And just really, without knowing it, I was kind of just giving myself really intricate vocal lessons, trying to sound like these really amazing singers of the 80s and 90s. And, kind of when I look back on it now, and now that I am so involved in this professional side of the industry, a lot of people talk to me about these very technical skills that I have. And I'm like, I don't even know. I just kind of do it. And so that, I know that started at a young age. And then I got my first guitar in 2015. And then I just kind of started playing it here and there. I just YouTubed how to play guitar. And then I guess it was right when COVID started, and everything kind of went to a halt for life.
Right.
I was just sitting at home and, had a lot of time on my hands. And so I just kind of was, singing and playing guitar. And then I posted a video on Facebook, and just put it out to the world. And Tommy Jidone reached out to me and just said, "Hey, would you want to play a gig at my restaurant?" And so I said, was I prepared probably at that moment? No. And so I just said yes. I felt like it was the right thing to do. I was kind of going through some hard stuff in my life at that particular time, and was kind of praying for an outlet, I guess. And, I felt really in my heart that was kind of like, I shouldn't say no, I guess. So I said yes. And he was like, "Yep, cool. Can you play 3 hours worth of music?" And I was like, "Yep."
I can hear him saying this too,
Right. So man, I scrambled and I just kind of went through every song that I knew for the most part, just as far as being able to just sing it. Do I know the song well enough to be able to kind of just half play it somewhat well on guitar? And so I printed out a full sheet, like about 60 songs in a binder, and I went to the show and played it. And there was 150 people there.
Oh, really? Kind of on your first really gig, then, kind of. Huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty much. And so like it was just a bunch of people that were itching to get out. And in fact, Tommy and his staff had to start turning people away just because of the kind of the rules at the time.
Right.
And so it was a really big showing for me. And in fact, he ended up booking me the very next day, that evening. So he was like, "Man, this was way better than what we thought. And I have the time of my life after it was done."
Sure.
And so I just said, "Yeah, absolutely. I'll be back." And so I think, for me, as hard as COVID was for so many people, for me, it was a huge blessing, and it turned into an amazing opportunity because there were so many bigger artists and just people that weren't doing it that I just was. And so I was getting exposed to so many people and so many social media avenues that it just spread like wildfire so fast. And so my name got out there very, very quickly. And then it just caught the attention of a couple bigger guys, and I started opening for national acts, and then that in turn kind of started getting my name to the national scene. And then, so that's kind of how it started for me.
That's an amazing story, actually,
Yeah.
Because, so a couple of years ago, you were still just kind of goofing around and didn't even take it really serious. It didn't sound like that.
Not really. I mean, for me, it was just, like I said, it was kind of something I was in a very low point in my life. I kind of, football had ended for me, and I was in a 3.5 year relationship that ended kind of abruptly. And so I was kind of just at a down point. I really didn't know, what I wanted to do. I got I was doing construction, so I was working and was done with school. And then it was kind of just, just a real, how we all felt entering COVID. It was just like, man, I got nothing to do. And, and so like there were so many outlets that I was trying to find just to better myself, and, all that kind of closed down. So music was the only thing that I really invested my time in, and it was the only thing making me happy. And then just kind of being around happy people and making them happy helped kind of heal me pretty fast. And so I kind of just, got out of that headspace pretty quick. And yeah, like you said, I mean, never in a million years was I thinking that it would turn into something like this. So especially at the beginning, I was just kind of doing it because I was having fun, and it was, getting me out into the world again, and kind of an excuse to be able to go out without getting ridiculed at the time. So
Awesome. Well, if you can stick around, we'll talk a little bit more here. It's Cody Cozz in on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. My friend in today, Cody Cozz, Cody Cozzolino from back in the day. So obviously, Cody Cozz, you're kind of like a radio guy. Shorten up your name and stuff so people can remember it a little bit better, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So growing up, you were telling us a little bit ago you were doing some construction and COVID kind of shut everything down. You started playing an instrument. I mean, everybody could say they want to do this, but you've actually done it is what's really interesting.
Right. Yeah. I think it's been a pretty crazy situation. Like you said, it's a very rare opportunity to really get into the music business at a professional level.
Right.
And so it's been a heck of a ride so far.
Well, time, as they say, timing is everything, and obviously the timing was right for you, and obviously there's a lot of great talent there as well within you to do something like this. So you didn't take music in school and all that kind of stuff or anything?
I really didn't.
Just started jamming a little bit, huh?
Yeah, it was always something that was on the back burner of my life. So it was never not there. But I had other things that I was, more interested in, like football and,
right.
And then doing that at such a, I would consider that we did that at a super high level. Like when I was a kid, I was on the travel Pueblo Crusaders with Danny DeRose.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I did that. And then, I think, middle school football, when I was in middle school, was a lot more competitive and, more of a serious thing than I think it is now. I also coached middle school football at Pleasant View Middle School for 3 years, and they actually just won the city championship this year. So it's pretty awesome. I was excited to hear that for those little dudes. And but I think looking back on it too, it was just a more competitive time, and there were so many. It was, I was playing with the kids at Heaton Middle School that went on to win the 3 state championships at East.
Wow,
so
sure.
It was just a good group of guys that really took football serious, and we all kind of went on to go play college ball and, do some great things in life. And then obviously in high school, I played for Coach Monty Pinkerton, who is a very well-known legend coach here in this town.
Absolutely.
And so then I went on to play football with Coach Riston too. So football for me was always just a huge, and then actually my dad was a coach at Centennial High School for a very long time, and he also coached at South. So he was a coach at Centennial in 1992 when they won the state championship, and then he also coached. He came out of retirement and coached on defense for South High School in 2017 when they won the state championship there as well. So it's always been just a huge thing for my family and my life, and so music never really was kind of in the forefront of it.
That's amazing. But it sounds like you're used to being competitive, and I'm sure that music industry is pretty competitive too.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think for me, just, it's funny you say that too, because I've always kind of told myself that, or I've told, some of the people that I work with and for, that I think my mindset is really what's going to help me succeed in this business, because you're absolutely right. It's, so many people do it, believe it or not, especially being here in Nashville. There's just, being an artist is a dime a dozen out here. It's kind of just what separates you and sets you apart. And,
right.
I think I've ran into a lot of people that have only done music, and they've only ever, been exposed to this lifestyle and kind of, I wouldn't say chasing fame, but definitely chasing some of the things that come with it. So they're almost robotic as human beings. And, and so I think for me, kind of coming into it, I've lived a normal life and I've never really sought to do something like this. So I think that alone sets you apart. But at the same time, being able to take constructive criticism and have people tell you, this isn't really what we're looking for. You don't have this tangible thing right now, but eventually you might. And, so being told that you, in a very nice way, that you suck or that you're not ready, it doesn't hit me in the heartstrings like it does for some people.
Right.
And, and I believe in myself enough and have had so many professionals in this business tell me that I can do this, that I finally just was like, I accepted it, and I have enough confidence in my abilities and kind of what I have going on to truly just to go for it. And, I think there's a lot of people that I've met that, they'll have one person say, "Oh, you're terrible," but it's, some drunk young person that's just here for vacation, and that just shuts them down, and it's just, I think the reason why people really fail in this industry is just because it's an attitude thing. I think they let things get to them, or they just kind of let time and know it's a slow process. And I got to play with this guy named Aaron Watson, who I'm a really big fan of and was a big fan of before I was doing music. And then, he's actually taken me out on the road here in December, which is really cool. And we've kind of done some cool things together, but he gave me some great advice. And he just said, do you become a doctor overnight? And I said, no. And he just said, yeah. He said, that's pretty much what this industry is. He says it's going to take about 10 to 15 years to really cement something. But, he said it's totally worth it. And he said, don't forget that the fans and the people that support you mean everything. And he said, if you can find 100,000 loyal and true fans that share your stuff, like your stuff, listen all the time, then you'll be totally fine. And he said, and I think that's a lot of just what I've come to find here too, is just, sometimes in this side of the industry, people lose sight of their fans and the people that are supporting them, and I think I come from a great town of Pueblo that has supported me so much that they've changed my life. And I think that, being able to speak with some of these other artists that I've gotten to play with, they all have the same mindset and they've all succeeded. So I've been exposed to a lot of guys that have made it and succeeded, and they've given me all of this advice that all kind of becomes the same thing. And so now I've instilled that in myself, and I just, I really believe that I can make it in this thing and become a true player in the game. So. And
you got some direction, which way you're going. Sounds great.
Yeah,
it sounds great. With us today, Cody Cozz, Puebloan Cody Cozz. Or are you a Nashvilleian now? Which is it?
I'm a Nashvilleian at the moment, I would say. Yeah. I think that I've got two homes for sure. I miss Pueblo every day. In fact, the town that I live in here in Nashville is called Brentwood. And the reason I picked this place is because it reminds me of Pueblo.
But they don't have green chili there, I'll bet.
They don't have green chili. They have their version of what they call green chili, and it's terrible.
Well, hopefully none of them are listening right now in Nashville anyway. But
right.
It's Cody Cozz in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. Cody Cozz in here this morning, and as I mentioned before, usually I've got people in here that I've known for 30-plus years or something. You're not even 30 years old, but I'll tell you what, I keep hearing about you, and I feel like I've known you, and I've seen you before and things like that. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to have you on here and talk about some of the other stuff besides just the music, but you got a great story.
Thank you very much. And just, I appreciate you having me on too. It's been an awesome thing to be able to listen to you for so long, and now finally have the opportunity to kind of be on your show. It's pretty amazing. So I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you very much. And I don't know if your dad's like my dad, but my dad used to tell me, early on in the radio days, he'd say, when are you going to quit jacking around and go get a real job? So does your dad tell you that or not?
I think, both my parents are the most supportive groups of people that I have in my career so far. But I will say, when I first was kind of leaning towards doing this full time, I would say about a year and a half to 2 years ago now, when I started finally having some bigger opportunities that were at least piquing my interest, that, hey, maybe this is something that I could do. I had opened for a few big artists, and had like one opportunity on radio, and things were going pretty good. And I had a few people here and there that were like, hey, you should pursue this. So it started festering in my mind. And then, I know my parents definitely saw that I was kind of dabbling with that idea.
Right.
And definitely at first there was some hesitation. I know both my mom and my dad were like, I don't know about this. It's really hard to get into. And, can you, especially during the time frame when everything was kind of shut down.
Sure.
I mean, nothing was really going on. So
we didn't know if anything was going to come back to like it was,
Exactly. Yeah. So it was kind of, and then coming fresh out of college, I was working, like I said, I was working construction. So I had some good opportunities that I was already kind of establishing myself in. So obviously my parents were like, hey, I don't know if this is something that you should be putting so much time into. And, because the lifestyle that it is, you're out late, you're kind of surrounded by bars, and sometimes not all of that is the best thing in life.
Right.
So they had their concerns, but I just, I had to reassure them that they raised me right. And I know, kind of what I'm doing. And sure enough, when the opportunities really started coming in, they've supported me 100%.
So did you go like to Nashville just with your suitcase and decided to go, or did you go out there and do construction, or how did all that go?
So basically, everything kind of happened for me starting in Pueblo. Like there was a place out in Pueblo West that opened that was called the Gutter House,
right? And
they were bringing in a lot of national acts, pretty much every weekend. And so it kind of started for me there, and I got certified as a WME artist, which is a Nashville booking agency. And so I got certified as that in order to start opening for these big guys. So kind of having that credential very early on really helped me. And so I think the only reason I got it so young and so fresh was just because, like I said, there was nobody really, either people were scared to go out and do it, or just, they didn't have the funding because they weren't touring themselves, or they weren't playing themselves. So having somebody like me that was living in Pueblo or living in Colorado that had the ability to go travel and kind of do that was something that was easy. I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll go. So I kind of started, so that it started in Pueblo, and this guy named Craig Campbell came into town, and he's a country music legend. He's had quite a few hits out on the radio over his career, and his biggest song is called Outskirts of Heaven. And so he played, and I got to open for him, and I just kind of wasn't really afraid to go up and talk to him at the end of my set. And I just said, hey, Mr. Campbell, could you give me some advice, or, if you have an hour or so after this to just talk to me or whatever. And he was so humble and gracious, and he was like, I'll do you one better, bud. He's like, here's my number. Call me on Monday.
Wow.
So I gave him a call. Yeah. So I gave him a call, and I mean, he talked to me on the phone for a couple hours, and he just kind of told me, he let me ask whatever, and just gave me a lot of advice, and a lot of it had to do with just my performing itself. So it was just, at that point I was still sitting on a bar stool, and I had a thing in front of me that I was reading off of, and it was just, just very green still, and just kind of not confident in my abilities at the time without those little crutches.
Sure.
So he kind of just said, hey, we got to, get you going a little bit. So I followed that advice to a T. I mean, I bought the equipment the next day that he said that I should get. I mean, it was everything that he had told me. I just said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So over the course of about 6 or 7 months, I was playing constantly. I was opening for a lot of artists, and I was really just kind of honing in, becoming not just a singer, but a performer, and learning how to entertain a crowd. And then by happenstance, Craig Campbell comes back into Colorado, and the guy that was supposed to open for him was also a Nashville guy, but he tested positive for COVID, couldn't fly. So the venue called me and said, hey, how fast can you get here? blah, blah, blah. I was on a job site, and thankfully my dad was my boss. So I called my dad, and I told the guy that I was working with up at the job site, I was like, hey, I need to leave. Everybody, it was all cleared, so I drive home, hit traffic, so I was late, so I had to go home. I literally didn't even have time to change. I just grabbed my guitar, grabbed like a fresh T-shirt, put it on and my hat, and I was in my work jeans and my work boots, and I got to the venue and, gave Craig a hug. He was real excited to see me, and I was just ready for that moment. I was never expecting it to kind of happen again, but I knew that I was ready, and I was going to, show him what I had been working on. And so I would say I had a killer performance, and then he actually watched my whole set, which never happens. I've played with a lot, like I said, with a lot of guys, especially now, and it's very rare that an artist truly watches. They might catch a couple songs, but to watch a whole set is very rare. And he did that, and he filmed a lot of my clips, and then he just said, hey, at the end, he goes, I'm a fan, man. He goes, I took a lot of video. I'm going to show them to some people. And he said, I can't guarantee anything, but I'm a fan. I think you got the it factor.
Awesome.
So about a week and a half later, he gave me a call. He goes, hey, you ready to come to Nashville? And that was kind of all it took. So
wow. So you threw down your hammer at the construction site, jumped in your vehicle basically, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. That's an amazing story. Cody Cozz in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5. Cody Cozz in here. Cody Cozzolino from Pueblo. Cody Cozz in Nashville now. And, one of the things I've noticed is you come back to Pueblo and you've played a lot of kind of nonprofit things in that, Pueblo County Fair and some things like that, right? So you still come back and forth to Pueblo quite a bit, right?
Oh, yeah. I typically will just stay there at my folks' house, if I am playing a show in Colorado or, a surrounding state. So I'll just I actually fly into Pueblo, so I just take a flight from Nashville to Pueblo and from Pueblo to Nashville. Pueblo has just supported me so much that I try to do, what I can to play like the Chili Fest or to play, the State Fair, things like that. Because it's also good exposure for me too. And, there's still a lot of people in Pueblo that haven't heard of me. And, I think that having your fan base and friends and family support you really just helps kind of expose you more. And, Pueblo's been amazing, so I'll always be able to come back and play there and love being there. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Who biggest entertainer you've met so far out there in Nashville? Biggest name, I should say.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest so far is Rascal Flatts. They walked in on one of my studio sessions one time, and I got to kind of hang out with them for about an hour or two, and they were really cool. And it was a situation where I had to pretend to not really care at all and not
be starstruck.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. And then trying to think, just being on the streets or kind of out in the town. There's a kid right now that's really big in the industry. His name is Bailey Zimmerman, and I've talked with him a couple of times, and we've ran into each other on several occasions, just at the the bars downtown,
right.
And that happens a lot more frequent than I think people would think. But it is, everybody's kind of doing this type of a thing, so it's kind of cool to see everybody in their environment and just kind of, they're a lot more normal, I guess. It's just this life, we're all kind of doing the same thing, so it's very normal, even when you do see these big famous guys.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. So, as we talked about, now you've got a couple of songs under your belt. How did all that come about? Did somebody write them and say, "Hey, I want this kid to sing them for me," or how does all that work?
Yeah. So about a year ago, last summer, was when I started the recording process, and I came out, and that was before I signed my record deal. And so I kind of just came out, was going to do things just kind of, off the cuff, I guess is the right way to say it.
Uh-huh.
And, after recording these songs and kind of pitching my brand and just kind of showing who I was as a person and as an artist, the label got super intrigued and I ended up getting a record deal. So I signed a couple-year contract with Grindstone Records and just am releasing music through them. And, I've been fortunate enough to be pitched songs that are amazing songs. And I was a little disappointed at first when, I had a catalog of about 20 to 25 songs, I think, at the time that I had written. And I pitched them and said, this is what I have. And again, it was, you have to swallow it. And they said, they're okay. They're not fantastic. Which, now some of the songs that I'm writing now, I would 100% agree, that they're not good enough to make, some big headway. So,
right.
Some of the things that they had talked to me about is, it's important to really have songs that people will want to listen to at this stage in my career. So as far as, as being able to put out original music, there's 2 songs that I've written that'll be on my full EP that I'll have coming out. But these first 2 songs were written by Craig Campbell, Phil O'Donnell, and he's a writer for George Strait. And that was my first single, On My Way. And they've both written songs that have, gone number 1 and stuff like that. And then this newest song that I just released, October 28th, was written by a guy named Justin Wilson and Jackie Lee. And they also are number 1 hit songwriters as well. So, I'm in good company. And a lot of that is just because of the people that I've been connected with. And it's super rare, but they're incredible songs. And, On My Way, my first single I think if it's not already, it's definitely close to 500,000 total streams. I had a music video for it that actually played and debuted on CMT Music National Television, which was pretty incredible.
Well, yeah, I had no idea about all this, so I'm just, and I'm not downplaying this by any means, but I'm a rock and roll guy. I had no idea all this was going on, so congratulations. But On My Way, the song On My Way seems so fitting for what's going on right now.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. I mean, it's completely changed my life. I mean, it's truly made my name a national name. I mean, I've gotten to, I wouldn't say it's at a level of, stardom, but it's definitely, there's people all over the world that have listened to the song. We can track that stuff.
Sure.
And so it's pretty unbelievable to know that, people are enjoying that song all over the world. And, I've gotten to play places that, even if it's, I'm out on the road with a big artist, there's a few people here and there that are coming to the show just for me,
right.
and it just makes you feel good. And it, even though it's, 5 to 10 people, those 5 to 10 people paid money to come and see you.
Right.
And you're in a completely different state in the United States. And it's amazing. I'm getting giddy just talking about it because it's just so amazing. And, but yeah, On My Way was my first release and, it's done extremely, extremely well. And then, like I said, I just released, Right on Time, which is my second single, October 28th. And
just like last week you released this thing.
Yeah. And it's already at 10,000 Spotify streams in just a few days. So it's doing well. I think it's doing as well as kind of what we projected it to be. So it's not under exceeding and it's not over exceeding. We did have a couple thousand pre-saves of it, which is pretty great for where I'm at in my career. And so far it's hitting some pretty big hitter playlists on like the Apple Musics and Spotify's and stuff. So it's definitely being recognized by the industry, which I think I've made enough noise to at least have my name being mentioned by people. So it's been good.
And when they hear it, they recognize it a little bit there. But
exactly.
So like Spotify and all these things, this would equivalent like record sales back in the day or something now, right?
Yeah. It is. It's very, like, you could still buy records and things like that, but as crazy as it is, that's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah, people just download it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so you can kind of just pick what you want. And I think that it sucks that it is that way, but at the same time, you just kind of have to adapt and accept that that's the way it is. It's kind of, I think a lot has made things change, like TikTok. TikTok, in my opinion, is the music industry now.
That's crazy.
So
yeah.
It is crazy. And it ceased to exist 3 years ago, which is nuts, but it's made enough. I mean, I get told on a daily basis, hey, make sure you get on your TikTok, make sure you grow your TikTok numbers. So that's something that I'm still trying to get
kind of wrap your head around. Yeah.
Oh man. And I've gotten good at it now, but man, it's a pain in the neck.
I'll bet.
That's so.
Cody Cozz in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. Cody Cozz in here on a Friends Friday. I'm getting to know him, so this is a little different than some of the Friends Fridays I've had here in the past. And what an interesting story you have. Basically, if you're just tuning in, you kind of, COVID hit and you started staying at home and playing some music, and Tommy Jidone got you in there to play a couple of nights because he probably didn't have anybody to play, and you've kind of just ran from there, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's an amazing story. This is the kind of stories that they make movies about,
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You talked about, you were kind of influenced by classic rock and that. Who are your big classic rock? Are you still a classic rock fan? Or are you totally into country, or how does all that work?
Man, I'm still. I mean, I was listening to Def Leppard yesterday, and I watched a Motley Crue movie, and I kind of just binged their record at the gym. And so I think for my classic rock taste, it's all over the spectrum. I mean, I know that there's, so many kind of avenues of classic rock, but I'm a big just fan of like Journey. Journey's probably one of my favorites. The Eagles. I love Def Leppard. I love Bon Jovi, Bryan Adams. Trying to think, Boston, Styx. I really like Styx and Damn Yankees.
All good stuff, that's for sure. But so you're incorporating some of that into your act and your style and some of that. That's interesting. Because I think, if I remember correctly, Garth Brooks was a big fan of Kiss. Back in the day or whatever. So I'm sure there was a little bit of that influence in Garth Brooks, I would think.
Absolutely. I mean, I think especially growing up with seeing that, it wouldn't surprise me at all that Garth Brooks took that and just said, I can make this country, as a country artist and give it the greatest show in the world.
Put on a show,
like yeah. And, he definitely changed the game when it came to putting on country concerts. And I heard a good quote one time that really kind of changed the way that I looked at my performances. And it was, people hear with their eyes. And so what you see really makes you decide whether or not, this was the greatest show I've ever seen. So in a very just hypothetical sense, the person could suck as a singer, but if they have flames and they have, flashing lights and all these crazy things and they kind of run around, man, that was a great show. He put on a great performance.
You think you got your money's worth or something, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So, there's no doubt that they're the George Straits of the world that kind of just stand there, but it's George Strait.
Sure.
He's got 50 number ones that you can listen to, but not everybody has, a catalog of songs that everyone knows. So,
well, like you say, when people leave, they want to say, man, that was a good show. I'm glad I spent my money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll be darned. That is good advice. People hear with their eyes.
Yep.
I'm going to write that down because I'll forget it here in just a few seconds. But, good stuff there. Cody Cozz in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits.